Hello, I'm back. J.M. Frey here. Today is the day that National Novel Writing Month is shutting down its website to wipe the forums and get ready for next year's event. And it's also the day that all of us nanowers, novelists, artists, and rebels alike, wait patiently for the site to come back so we can put up our new novels. I haven't actually decided what I'm going to write for Nano this year. I have a screenplay that I need to finish, so I might do that one, but I also have another novel that I have to do, but I also have a novella and a short story. Those are all things that are sort of, that I kind of have to write, so I'm going to decide which one of those projects to focus on for November once the website's back up. But in the meantime, I am enjoying my tea. I don't know if you can see, there's my little guy with the pencil. There's my novelist fuel. I am ready to go. I'm really pleased to say that if you're in the local area, if you're in the Tri-Cities area in Southern Ontario, I'm going to be teaching basically how to do Nano 101 at the local library, the Centre Wellington Library. So it's kind of a workshop that's going to be rolled into kind of Noveling 101 and then Nano 101, and the subsequent Saturdays we're going to be having write-ins and working together at the local branch. So I encourage anybody who lives in the area who is a long-time nanoer or who's never nanoed and would like to come on out and join us. So this past weekend was EerieCon 17, where I was a guest. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the experience there. I think that would be a good vlog. I drove down to upstate New York with Leanna. It hurt. I don't usually sit around that long because of the injury I had in January with the herniated disc and the jammed hip and all of that. But when we got there, it was really nice. Leanna was a little bit late picking me up, but the upside of that was that I got to hang out with my grandmother for 2 hours. We drove to my grandmother's house, and she had a pot of tea waiting for me and Leanna so we could have a pot of tea and then get ready to go. And then Leanna was late, so by the time Leanna showed up, my grandmother and I were actually going through her old recipe books. And when I got back, she had actually picked a whole bunch of carrots and things from her garden. And today, right now, I'm sorry you can't smell it because it smells amazing. I'm actually making harvest soup with all the ingredients from my grandmother's garden. So peppers and onions and sweet potatoes, ornamental gourds, carrots, garlic, minced ginger, and maple syrup. And you just boil the crap out of it. And then you get it with an immersion blender. And it becomes the most amazing soup on the planet. Yeah, so EerieCon. Well, it's small. I think there was maybe 50 people total, which is the smallest convention I've ever been invited to. And it was nice, and it was really relaxing, which is something that I liked. I mean, I do enjoy Fan Expo and San Diego Comic-Con and Emerald City Comic-Con and those really big conventions, but the smaller ones, there's something, I don't know, there's something really intimate about them, which is nice and sometimes not nice, because then if you run into people that you find that you don't get along with, it's kind of hard to escape them because they're just there. But if you run into people you really like, then the nice thing is you can't escape them because they're just there. I enjoyed the dealer's room, although I didn't buy anything this time around. I was really looking for, I need a new ear cuff. The ear cuff that I have been wearing since Deep Space Nine was on, I lost 2 weeks ago, and I think I accidentally vacuumed it up. So I'm kind of on the lookout for a new silver ear cuff. I haven't really found anything I like yet, but there's a jewelry store in my hometown that is run by somebody that I used to go to high school with. So I might go down there tomorrow and see if there's something I like. I don't know. I'm just really sad. That was my Bajoran ear cuff, and I've had it forever. I've had it so long that all the chains fell off. Anyway, so the convention was filled, it seemed like, with half Canadians, which is really funny. I mean, I don't mind going to the States. I like going to the States, but I always get really flustered with the money, because American money all looks the same. It all feels the same. Canadian money, every denomination is a different color. and there's Braille in the top corner. So I'm teaching myself how to read the Braille so I can know what bill it is before I pull it out of my wallet. I know exactly what I have in my hand, and I always feel really dumb when I try to pay for things in the States, because it's like, is this a 1? Is this a 20? Is this one 100? It's really easy in Canada. 1s are the gold coins, 2s are the gold and silver coins, 5s are blue, 10s are purple, greens are 20, 50s are red, 100s are brown. And no, they don't smell like maple syrup. Although I wonder if that myth comes from people paying at Tim Hortons so much, because there's a lot of sweet, sugary foods like donuts and things that people touch that and then they touch the money. I wonder if there's like, it's not that $100 bills smell like maple syrup. They smell like donuts. Conspiracy solved. So the fellow guests at the con were really lovely. As I said, I drove down with Leanna Kay from Agents of Cosplay and The Escapist, and of course she was one of the writers and producers on the Ed the Sock show back in the day. I'm lucky to call Leanna one of my good friends, and Stephen, her husband, as well. He's a really, really swell dude. I got to spend some time with Derwin Mack, who I do know from the Toronto scene, and I didn't know as well as I would have liked, because he's a very kind of quiet dude, and I actually got to have a couple meals with him and really listen to him speak, and he is so well informed and so clever, and he really is sort of like a living history book of conventions and fandom in Canada. He's just a really, really smart dude. Everybody go buy his books, Derwin Mack, M-A-K. I also got to hang out a bit with John Allen Price, who is an American author who's done this really interesting book called Caesar Americanus, where he has taken the plot of Shakespeare's Caesar and set it in the 1930s around the Roosevelt cabinet. So that sounded really neat, and he did it all kind of in government memos and newspaper articles. So it's a really, really fascinating literary alt history, Shakespearean epic tragedy book, and I do genuinely recommend it. John Allen Price, Caesar Americanus. I also got to hang out with Kelly Armstrong, who is always lovely, always very, very sweet, very thoughtful, and just really, she's kind of quiet, and then you get a zinger like that, and you just, everybody in the bar kind of goes, Kelly, wow. So she's got a great sense of humor, and I always love hearing about what her kids are up to. And for the first time, I got to meet Craig Engler, who is the writer of Z Nation, which is on Sci-Fi and on Space. And total confession time, I don't like watching zombie anything. If I had to choose a monster that scares me, because most movie monsters don't scare me, but zombies scare the crap out of me, because there's no coming back from being a zombie. There's no redeeming quality. When you become a zombie, you're just dead, but you're worse than dead. Like when you're a vampire, you can still have ethics. When you're a werewolf, you're still human part of the time. If you become a mummy or a monster or a mutant or a superhero, you're still essentially yourself. Your mind and your soul, if you believe in the soul, is still there. The thing that's terrifying about zombies is there's nothing of the person you are left. There's nothing of the people you love left. So I can't stand zombie anything, just not from a blood and guts and gore point of view, because I've done special effects movies. So like when I see all that crap on people's face and I see the blood, all I can think is, geez, that's itchy, and I hope they used the orange flavoring in the blood instead of the mint, because the mint stings if it gets in your eyes. Poor actors. But it's not that, it's the moral side of it too. I couldn't handle 13 Ghosts for the same reasons, because the guy who's making and collecting all the ghosts was just morally repugnant. Craig himself, however, was very lovely, and I have actually watched a couple episodes of Z Nation, just because it is sort of a different take. It's really focused on the human side of things, but it's wonderfully cheesy in the way that the old Xena and Hercules shows were. So it does, it waffles between very serious and thoughtful and philosophical and, tapered and rainy, which I also like. And he was really, really lovely and a very generous listener and just straight up a nice dude. And I also got to hang out with David Klink, who he is in the Canadian scene, and strangely enough, we really haven't crossed paths a lot. I'm ashamed to say I haven't actually read anything of his, but we had breakfast together the one day, and he was just really smart, thoughtful, had a lot of interest. I mean, basically, the theme of everything that I'm saying is that my fellow guests were very interesting, and I had a really good time talking to them. And I'm very happy that David Ennis invited me and all of them to the convention together. What else happened? I judged the masquerade. I got to wear the TARDIS dress. I haven't been able to wear the TARDIS dress to anything in a long time, mostly because it takes about 2 hours to put on. And I would say about 20 minutes of those 2 hours is me relearning how to put in contacts. I don't wear contacts in my daily life. I do have a pair of glasses that I wear when I'm driving or in lectures or giving lectures. Well, giving lectures if I want to see the people in the back of the room. Sometimes the room's too big and you don't want to see anybody. It's scary. But I don't wear contacts. So yeah, usually 20 minutes to 40 minutes is me remembering how to put the contacts in. But yeah, I got to put it on. It was really neat. If you watch Agents of Cosplay, there is going to be an episode sometime in the future where Leanna Kay and I put the TARDIS gown on me. She actually started recording from the moment I started getting ready, so you're going to get to see the whole 2-hour process. I assume not in real time. There is going to be one embarrassing moment in the middle. I did talk in my last vlog about how I put on a bit of weight, and I did have to adjust the TARDIS dress for my new size, and that wasn't the problem. The problem was getting the corset done up. The corset was made a little bit incorrectly, and the busking in the front of the corset, the bit that links together, there's these 2 metal poles that go down the inside of the corset, or the inside of the place where the corset comes together, and they weren't secured into the fabric pocket well enough, so every time you grab them, they kind of flip around in your hands. So trying to hook them together, it just flip-flopped all over the inside of the little fabric envelope that it was in, and I think there's 20 minutes of us standing in front of the mirror laughing about trying to get this stupid busk done up. So hopefully she extra fast forwards through that. Judging the masquerade was a lot of fun. I got to judge it with Derwin, Leanna, Craig, and Kelly. And as far as I'm aware, Craig and Kelly aren't costumers in any way. So they were really good sports because they were just like, wow, that looks so amazing. Wow, that looks so amazing. They were so enthusiastic. And then Leanna, Derwin, and I are cosplayers. So it was really interesting to see what they focused on when they were judging the costume versus what we focused on. I spent a lot of time looking up close at the workmanship and the hand stitching and things like that, which always scared the crap out of me when I was doing the judging, because I know that my hand stitching really, really sucks. So good on everybody who did all of that sewing and the pattern drafting all by themselves, because that's the part of cosplaying that frustrates me the most. So good job, guys. The con suite was lovely. I really appreciated the host of the con suite, whose names I didn't actually catch, which is a shame. They had this giant keg of beer in the back, and I know I'm supposed to not be drinking beer from here on out, but I will admit I had a couple glasses, simply because I am a wine snob, and the wine they had on offer, wine shouldn't be fizzy. So I had one glass of wine and was like, I think I'll just go with the beer. If I'm going to have to drink something carbonated, I'll drink the beer. But I didn't go overboard, so bad me, but I didn't have too much, so I'm proud of that. A little bit more food in the con suite would have been nice. There was a lot of cheesies and chips, which was great. Cheesies, orange finger addiction. But what I really wanted was a sandwich. And for reasons that I don't understand, the hotel, restaurant, and bar closed. There's a whole afternoon from 10 o'clock to 5:30 where you couldn't get any food. I was really happy I brought some apples and some carrots and some yogurt. There were, unfortunately, parts of the convention that were uncomfortable. I don't quite understand what it was about this particular convention versus others that I've been to that were almost as small. But there was this weird sort of back in time kind of misogyny and racism going on. Not racism so much, but a lot of unconscious misogyny that was very frustrating, especially when you have guests that are as feminist, as fiercely feminist, as intelligent, and as outspoken as Leanna Kay and I, who brook no crap. And there was this sort of weird inability to discuss actual issues, and not every panel has to be a fight or an argument or a dear fandom, you're wrong because of, or dear creators, you're wrong because of. But there was one panel when I was trying to address the deeper issues of a current television show, and there was this, and there were some people in the audience who really wanted to engage with this, to discuss this sort of creeping misogyny and racism that's kind of come back into this show that has startled us longtime fans. And the room really fought me on it. Like, there was a couple guys in the back who told me to kind of essentially shut up, little girl. And I brought up something racist, and somebody in the back was like, well, you just get over it. You deal with it like the rest of us. And I actually got really mad about that. And I do believe that I said, I shouldn't have to deal with it. And this show is not aimed at an adult audience, and therefore you're saying this in front of impressionable children who don't have the skills to just deal with it. They don't have the coping mechanisms to handle systematic, institutionalized misogyny, racism, ableism, fat shaming. And these are all things that have crept back into the show in the last couple of years. And it just got to the point where people were not listening to me, and I was being told I was wrong so much that I just changed the topic of conversation because I just couldn't do it anymore. But I really came out of there really angry. And one of my fellow panelists was like the living embodiment of a sad puppy. And I honestly didn't think that these people existed. I thought this had to be some kind of weird amalgamation of the people on the internet, the people that they think they are, the people that they put out there, the things that they say. I honestly thought that people who genuinely and honestly believe what the sad puppies and the rabid puppies believe couldn't actually exist. And then I met one. And then I was put on a panel with him, and it was really uncomfortable. And at some point, I just kept replying to his points with, wow, that's offensive. And wow, you are comparing bookstore sales to literacy rates, and those things don't compute. And I just, at some point, the shouting gets so loud that there's no point in shouting back against it, and you just have to cross your arms, sit back, and let people hang on their own rope, which is terrible, and I hated it. And it broke my heart because this man really, really loves science fiction, and he loves fantasy, and he loves writing, and he loves reading. But if you don't do it the way that he does it, you're doing it wrong. And that's heartbreaking, because people who feel the need to police imagination, I just wonder what they're missing. I feel sorry for them. I just really feel sorry for them. Another really uncomfortable thing, I did a late night panel on the mainstreaming of the erotica. I don't usually talk about it, but I do have an erotica pen name where I write science fiction and fantasy erotica, and we were sort of talking about the shift towards more sex in non-erotic books and the de-shaming of erotica, and how a lot of that kind of stems from the feminist movement and celebration of the self and celebration of bodies. And again, super gross guy in the back started making jokes about me as a sex worker, saying horrible things about my body, and it got to the point where every other panel I was on, every other event I was at, if he was there and I laughed loudly or if I made a passionate point, he made really gross jokes about me orgasming under the table. And I don't know, and at conventions you should report that kind of thing, but who do you report it to? Like, what do you say to head of security? Please remove this guy because he's being a total creeper? Yuck. I shouldn't feel uncomfortable at these things, but there's really no solid way to explain to these people. Because the big thing is, he would have fought it. And he would have said, no, I'm just joking, I'm just fooling, I'm just having fun, I'm just flirting. And it's the catcall argument, isn't it? You say, oh, honey, learn to take a compliment. And I say, that's not a compliment. So I just kept avoiding him, which is terrible. I'm a guest at a convention. I shouldn't have to walk out of the room when some gross dude walks in. So dudes, stop doing it. And if there are any dudes who are watching this who are watching other dudes do this stuff, stop them. Because they're not listening to me. If you really are a nice guy, just stop it. So 95% of the con was enjoyable. And the other 5% was like, oh! You read these articles online and you write these articles and you think the world can't be that bad. People must be learning. And then you meet the people who aren't learning and you're like, how do you exist? How do you exist in the 21st century? Gross! Blah! I want to give mad props to Eliora Smith, who was there. She's this young woman who is smart as a whip. She is clever. I'm going to put her Twitter handle down here, and I really think that you guys should follow her because she is an incredible feminist, an incredible advocate for non-neurotypical diversity and non-ableist diversity and representation in fiction, and she's fantastic. And I really think everyone should follow her. Please don't go harass her. Just love her. She's young, and she's a spitfire, and she's thoughtful, and that girl's going places. Having said all of that, I did get to read the new version of Chapter 1 of The Untold Tale, my book that's coming out in December for the first time, for quite a nice little crowd. I think there were 6 people in the room, which for a very small convention is like this 1/5 of the convention was there. And their response was very gratifying. I really appreciated that. I got to the end of the reading. I read the whole chapter, got to the end of it, and everyone said, oh, that's fantastic, yay, thank you. And I said, okay, does anybody have any questions about the publishing industry, any questions about me in general, any questions about the book? We have 15 minutes to do a Q&A, go. And the unanimous response was, what happens next? And I didn't have the book with me, I just had sample chapters I was giving away, so I had to get out my smartphone and bring up the document and expand it, and the words are really small on your phone, so I was holding it right here, reading the next chapter, everybody. And I think we got halfway through chapter 2, and even then everyone was like, no, keep going! And literally the most flattering thing you can do for an author. I was really, really pleased to hear that. So thank you everybody who came to my reading and who filled my heart with such warmth. I really do hope that when The Untold Tale comes out, you do pick it up and you do love it as vocally as you loved it in that hotel room. What else is up? Sometime this afternoon I have to learn All of Me. I've been Googling Eartha Kitt. I think there's an Eartha Kitt version where she's singing that and a Billie Holiday version with her singing that. So I've been trying to figure that song out. I don't have the sheet music for it, although I have a music rehearsal tonight, so hopefully the band director will give me one. I think that's everything. The soup really smells ready. I need to go check to see if the NaNoWriMo site is back up. I have to get packed up and ready for my singing rehearsal. And soon, very soon, I think I need to check my email for this. I do believe in the next couple hours I will be starting the very final edit of The Untold Tale. This is a really weird moment in a book's life because this is literally the last time I get to change anything. So if I miss something, too late. And if there's something I want to change, this is my last opportunity to play with the book. So it's weirdly melancholy. It's a bit of a melancholy stage of writing a book. On one hand, you're like, oh, thank God, I'm so done reading this manuscript. I've read it 700,000 times and I'm done. But on the other hand, I guess it's kind of like driving your kids to college. You can't wait to get them out of the house because they're 17 and smelly and annoying. But your baby's going out into the world. So last time you can give them advice, and do their dishes and wash their clothes and buy them groceries and give them textbooks and embarrass them in front of their friends. So I'm happy for it. I'm looking forward to it. But by this time next week, by the next time I post a vlog, that'll be it. The Untold Tale will be out of my hands and solely in my publisher's hands. So goodbye, little book. Here's to you. Thank you for being awesome.